We are so very grateful for everyone taking the time out of their day to give us a quick listen, along with the show of support. You can find our full talks on Spotify, YouTube, and any of our quick clips and community chats on Facebook, Instagram, and we're even on TikTok. But you know what the real thing is? You should probably go and do your dishes. We're back, and this is the black and the white of it. I'm Medina.
I'm Melissa.
That was disgustingly news anchored, and that's okay. We're just going to get right into it. And I've got a good question.
Okay.
What does it mean to you to advocate for your kids? You might need Google. You might have to Google this word, but
What are you implying?
because it carries a very different meaning to everyone. And just for some background for anybody listening or watching, I've asked this question 3 different ways, 3 different times, and she's still not quite grasping what I mean by what does it mean to you to advocate for your
So maybe
child?
I should ask you first.
Damn it.
Mm-hmm. Adina, what does it mean to you
Shoot.
to advocate for your kids?
For me, that shows up in validating their uniqueness in each one of them. So for my oldest, she's
amazing.
She is a nutter. She's a nutter, okay? We thought like sending her to outdoor school would tire her out a little bit, or like going to school all day would tire her out. No, she comes home and this child is off the rails, like just crazy. I would not change that for the world. And for anyone on the outside of her, I would never want them to simmer that flame of hers. So I'm very aware that if she at school, if they were to be like, oh yeah, she sits down and she's very cooperative and she listens, I'd be very leery of that because you're doing something that is like dimming her, which I don't even do. The kid drives me nuts and I put headphones on. Okay, that's
straight up
because I let her. I want her light to shine, and so if I were to hear that at school, I would go into school and I'd be like, okay, what's happening? What's taking place? I'm not going to be like, what are you doing to my kid? I'm just going to, take. That'll come later. But like, but I know I'm one of those moms. I'm very like I communicate with the teachers, so I know that in class she is very much the same. She is very helpful. She's a wonderful child. She listens. She gets her work done. But I got a great story from the teacher the one time that made me think like, good, that's Esme. Because I guess the teacher wanted her to do some work. And and Esme didn't want to do it. And so she was up and she was walking around and the teacher said, I just couldn't get her to do it. And it was time for cleanup. And she said it made me laugh because all of a sudden she wanted to do the work because she didn't want to do the cleanup. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's okay. She's in a safe space and she's good. So, but if it was the opposite, I would go in and I would say something and I'd have something to say. So I'm advocating by being active in the things that are around her and I'm protecting it. I'm protecting her uniqueness. My youngest, okay. She'll punch you in the throat, right? So I kind of like with her, how I advocate for her is like kind of a little pre-warning. And sometimes she does. I've seen this little 3-year-old speak to someone doing some work on our place. And he was outside taking a break from his construction work. And she straight up went up to him and was like, why are you out here? You should be upstairs fixing my bathroom. Like the 3-year-old and this grown man stopped and he explained to her like what he was taking a break. Yes, he'll be up in a few minutes, but I think most parents would have rushed up and been like, oh, I'm sorry, like, Elias, don't say that. Whereas I stood there and I was like, yeah, she ain't wrong. That's me advocating for her. Like I will always push power behind her because that's what she needs. So Esme needs a little more protecting, whereas Elias, yo, good luck. Like, and yeah, so that's how advocating for my kids show up for me.
Okay.
And I just want to let you know that you do advocate for your kids.
You might have to tell me how I do it. But I think
you do. You actually do.
I think like now that you've given those examples, because like for me, when you say advocate, my mind goes to like they're like medically they're giving me an answer that I think is wrong. And so I'm going to push for what I think needs to like happen. Like that's where my
Okay.
mind goes to when you say advocate. And I don't know why it goes medically, because that could be like
I
any
do. But do you want to talk about that right now?
no.
Okay.
That could be any kind of anything. Like, so for example, at school, Javon is very much like he's very sensitive and he's a rule follower, and but he's a good example for his classmates.
Mhm.
So he gets placed beside a child who
It's still learning.
is still learning,
Mhm.
and sometimes he like has voiced that he wishes that he didn't have to sit beside that child all the time because X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
It is distracting or whatever. So I've tried to explain to Javon that whatever, it doesn't matter. How I have advocated for Javon.
I was giving you like 2 more seconds and be like, reel it back. We're talking
Yeah.
about advocating here.
Is that like I've mentioned that to the teachers, and like can sometimes that situation be switched up? Like, can you move Javon or can you move the other child?
Exactly.
So that then like Javon doesn't have to feel this way, because it's almost like he's being punished for
Mhm.
being good.
So yes, that's advocating for your child. Being the voice when they cannot be the voice.
Yeah, because Javon, he would never like be like, "Can I move?" If he's saying that, he's very fed up. If he's coming to you himself, he's done with this child, and please move me now. Malia doesn't need advocating. No, that's not true. I don't
think
know.
you do advocate for you're finding it hard because she is a very powerful like
Yeah,
personality, and the way that you advocate for that is the same way that I do for Esme. You protect it, because there might be some people that look at me and be like, holy, like what? Whereas you're like, yep, that's it. Like, and that's a protecting of her, because they're so young right now that I don't think like they're being their authentic selves.
yeah,
There is no molding to them right now. So I feel like the longer we let them sit in those like that space and we protect it and we advocate, we like be the voice for them, right?
yeah,
I think we're gonna make better people that way. And I
Yeah.
think that was kind of lost, and it is being lost actually now, and we're seeing it in some spaces where I don't even know how to say this one properly without getting like the pitchforks out, but
bring them out, bring them out.
but like the kids that are misbehaving in the classrooms, knowingly misbehaving in the classrooms, and knowing that there will be no repercussions, and the teachers being afraid to hand out those disciplinary actions that are within the schools, because these parents aren't advocating in the right way and for the right thing. Like does that make sense?
Kind of.
Because so if your child is purposely misbehaving in class, purposely, right? I'm not
Mhm.
saying about these kids that are like defending themselves and they're getting disciplinary action. And instead of going in there and saying, you know what, you were a bit of a dick, kid. Yeah, you're going to get suspended. Yeah. Instead, they're coming in with, little Johnny punched this person because no.
They're being defensive.
But you're not like, that's not advocating for your child. That's actually cementing any excuse for them just to be like a dick person.
Well, and you're teaching the kids that like you can do no wrong, because I'm going to back you up no matter what, if you're wrong or right, which is not,
That's not conducive, and it's not
yeah,
like don't get me wrong, like if it came into a situation and Elias, she's going to be the more realistic one to use an example, like come up into a fight and someone's picking on her or says something and she throws a punch. I mean, I'm going to go in there and be like, yo, you couldn't have just kept calling her names or something? Like, why are we throwing punches? Like, that's how I'm going to come into it. But she's still in crap. Like, you still threw that punch. Like, you're in the wrong. And however that other person wants to deal with their kids, their problem. But now if someone were to come up to Elias and they punched and then she's punching back, what did you think was going to happen?
well, yeah,
Like, do you know what I mean? That's how I'm going to advocate in that way. So there's a right way to advocate for your kid and there's a wrong way to advocate for your kid. And I don't care how anybody feels about that. It's the truth. Like, that's the black and the white of it.
Yeah.
So I think that people really need to take a look at what they consider advocating for their kids is.
Yeah.
And we need to take a look at that on a grand scheme of things because it's kind of getting out of hand.
I can tell you, like, straight up that one thing I know, because I think, like, the things that you're going to have to advocate for your kids for are going to come and go and change as they get older. But one thing that I can tell you straight up is that if there is an issue with one of Javon's teachers or Malia's teachers about outdoor school, I will advocate hard for that because, like, when you say advocate, like, I'm just not going to take no. That's, like, how can we go about this so that it'll work for all of us?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like this is important for my child and my child needs to do these things. So my child's going to do it because I think it's important for their upbringing. And me as their mom, that's my still with us?
Sorry. I just kicked the camera.
That's my decision, right? So, like, I'll work with you to see how we can make it work, but I'm going to advocate that it happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to take no for an answer. I think when you say advocate, that's like what comes to my mind. I'm not going to take no for an answer.
So how important is it for the kids to know that we're advocating for them? And how can we let them know that we're advocating for them?
I think it's really important because I think it's like they know that we're in their corner.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think as a mom is part of your job. But I also think it's a very fine line because I would never want my kid to be like, well, my mom's going to advocate for me. Entitled. Yes, exactly. So yeah, there's like a fine line of.
Oh my gosh, did I tell you about the story about Esme kindergarten last year, first year at school? And another little girl told her that her mother was going to beat.
Oh gosh.
Me up. This is nothing serious for anybody listening or watching. It was just a tiff, like it's kindergarten. But I remember her coming home and Esme telling me the story, and she's like, "But don't worry, Mom. I let her know that you would beat her." And I was like, "Okay, first of all, y'all are in kindergarten,
right? The drama."
But the pride that I felt hearing Esme be like, "Bitch, please. My mom is going to whoop you and your mom." Like the pride that I felt because like the whole situation, that aside, I was just like, my daughter knows that I'm in her corner.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so important to know that is in the back of their minds and how do we first of all, I am not a violent person. So, like, how did my daughter know to say that?
I was going to say, my kids are going to have to tell them their black mom's going to come beat their ass because I...
But, like, I'm not a violent person. I'm very strong, but, like, I'm very strong-willed and I'm very powerful in my voice and I'm very steady. So, obviously, my girls see that. But, like, yeah, like, how did she know that in that moment? Like, whatever, kid. Like, you don't know my mom.
Just that. You don't know my mom. What she's capable of, violence or no violence.
It's just going to be a draw. We'll see what happens. But it's so important for our kids to know that we're advocating for them. And then we need to know how to advocate for them and when to advocate for them and the right and the wrong way to do it.
And I think that will change. Like as they grow and get older. I think how you advocate for them is going to change.
Do you think there will be a point where we'll have to ask permission as to when we advocate? When does that happen?
Ooh.
Because we've even had it where we come to a point where we're like, Mom, come on. Like, I don't need you. I need to do this by myself. Because isn't that a kind of independence?
Yeah, and it's like teaching lessons, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think you'll know. I think each kid's going to be different, and I think you'll know. Because once you tell your kids so many times, like, this is how it's going to go, and they keep doing it, it's like, okay, you need to feel it. So now you're going to learn the lesson on your own, and I will step back.
If you don't want to listen, you're going to feel it.
You're going to feel it.
Yeah.
And that's, right now, that's physical, because they're young. And it's mostly
it's all fronts. What do you mean?
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, it's more like, don't climb on that because you're going to smash your head when you fall. and they still climb on it, and then they smash their head when they fall. But I think as they get older, it's going to be more of like,
The decision that you made is going to be.
it's going to have consequences.
Sometimes it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that I think are going to burn me.
Or the
most.
lessons that come out of it.
Yeah.
The situation might not be great, but the lessons that are going to come out of it will be monumental in their life.
Yeah. So how would we show up for them then?
I don't know. Teenage
think-
moms?
Yeah.
Do you have any advice?
Chime in. But kind of like in my blissful stance, now that you point that out, because yeah, it is teenagers and we're not even there yet. But I think the way that my advocacy for them will change in decisions, maybe they made a wrong choice and they're sitting in it now and they're, reaping the benefits or the consequences. I want to be there and say, yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
Right? Either you need me to sit with you and wallow, or I'm going to celebrate with you.
And I think that's just it.
That's going to be your advocacy.
And it goes back to just being in their corner.
Yeah.
Like whether it came out good or came out bad, I'm here with you.
That is I think that's the end all be all of the advocacy portion of it.
Yeah.
That's good. We're good.
Fair enough.
I think this is a good one. We're going to keep it.